Welcome to the 2017 Spring Ag Update from the team at WT360.
Good morning, Richard Woolley here with Weather Trends 360, giving you a little bit of weather without the hype. Let's take a look at the overall conditions here in the month of April. We all kind of know what's happened. It's been pretty warm, especially across the eastern half of the country. Been really warm back here and across parts of the Corn Belt. Still quite mild. However, we also know what happened just this past couple days. We had a pretty big snowstorm go from Denver out through the high plains and up into the upper Midwest. Precipitation in April, again, we know about all the heavy weather we've had down here in the southern plains or the central plains, where a lot of rain, a lot of thunderstorms, tornado activity from Texas on over into Missouri, up into Illinois and Indiana have been quite wet. Also looking at potential for some historic river flooding along the Mississippi here as we go from anywhere from Cape Girardeau down southward toward Louisiana. We're going to have all this stormwater that came down in April. It's going to start running into those basins and run down the river, so you're going to see some river flooding on the Mississippi as we go here into May over the next several weeks. And speaking of May, weather patterns done a big change. We saw that big storm out in the plains. Overall, the month of May, we're going to see this colder trend stick with us throughout most of May. It's really centered over the Great Lakes, eastern Corn Belt, real cool. That's going to pose some problems. We know a lot of farmers got out working early this year, got some of their crop in the ground already. That's going to be a problem. We've got some cold weather coming. We have frost issues, frost problems probably all the way through mid-May, especially in Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and northeastern Iowa. I think we could see frost all the way through, or at least the risk for some frost through the middle of May. Looking at precipitation, we are generally seeing a little bit of a drier trend, at least in the central Corn Belt. Now, parts of the eastern Corn Belt are still quite wet all the way through Illinois, Indiana. That's going to cause some more problems with those cold conditions we just talked about. We're going to have possibly some problems with emergence across Indiana, Illinois. Maybe looking at some replanting in those areas, as some of that corn just may not come out of the ground. It may just rot. The seed just rots in the soil. Looking around the rest of the world, we're not the only ones having a cool weather spell right now. Back in April, most of Europe was quite cool. Western Europe in particular was quite cool. France, Germany. Quite cold, a lot of heavy frost in France and over into Germany, so some of their fruit growing areas have been impacted, and some of their lesser prominent grain areas are also having some issues. And also notice down here in the Ukraine Corn Belt is basically parts of southern Ukraine. It runs all the way across in here, and I'm going to draw a quick circle here. This is one of our new features here on our video, and then I can wipe it off. But essentially, southern Ukraine is one of the areas that's a lot of corn. They get a little bit of corn out here in western Ukraine, but most of it comes across the deep south. Now we're going to jump ahead over here to China on the other side of the world. Let's take a look at the overall soil moisture of recent. We see a lot of northeastern China is quite dry. This is where they grow a lot of their corn, anywhere from Beijing up toward the northeast. It's been quite dry in April. Dry soil conditions, we know what that does to temperature as we look into May. As we look into the May temperature forecast, we see that we have overall above normal temperatures across northeastern China. So essentially, we got some dryness and some warmth in China, so they may have little issues with lack of moisture and being a little bit too warm this time of year. As we look down into Brazil, this is their second corn crop season. Second corn crop is mainly grown in Mato Grosso and Mato Grosso do Sul down into western Paraná. It's looking overall fairly mild here in May. They've had some cool weather. They did get a couple of patchy, frosty nights here in the most recent last week or so. That may slow down some of their crop. They're in pollination right now for their corn, and that may slow it down a little bit. But overall, looking at May, we're looking at fairly good conditions. Again, soil moisture in Brazil is fine. The only place in the world soil moisture right now is lacking is in China. All the rest of the world is relatively wet at this moment. Taking a look at this upcoming way out into the future here, we're going to talk about the upcoming possible El Nino this coming winter. So we're talking actually 6-9 months in the future from now. We see this is a map of water temperatures across the tropical Pacific. This is the equator right here, United States for your reference up here. And basically the region we're looking at is this whole area kind of right in here. This is where El Nino tends to form, and we're starting to see some warmer water temperatures out here. We still have a little bit of actually this year's La Nina sitting out here that was this past winter, way southwest of Hawaii. That's starting to go away, and we're watching these warmer blobs of temperature of warm water starting to surface out here. And if that really gets itself going here, we think we'll see this overall area start to turn much above normal as we head into the late fall. And we know what El Niños do sometimes. Sometimes El Niños bring us quite mild winters in the United States. However, if an El Niño forms further to the west here, south of Hawaii, that's when we got to worry about pretty cold winter temperatures and snowy conditions across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. Taking a look at one more thing here, I want to remind you, since it's this time of year, going to the FarmCast tool here at the Weather Trends 360 site, make sure you go and set your planting date here. This is very important. You got to set your planting date to get your calendar and your timing all set on your various milestones. You can also export this data by hitting the export button. And one other thing I wanted to point out here, there it is we want to take a look at some of our precipitation. You can see our overall precipitation maps have gotten a lot more granular. In other words, high detail. You can see all these fancy little dots of rain and real high resolution rainfall. And we can see this great big rain event going on here in the Midwest at the moment. And so we have much more higher resolution precipitation data. That's going to lead to better data and better information at your local farm when you get down to that 1 kilometer, 1 mile resolution. Scrolling down, there we go. So the one thing I wanted to point out for y'all is that when you change that date at the beginning, that begins to set these cumulative degree days. Now we've changed our growing degree day to match the corn growing degree days, the USDA corn growing degree day calculator. It's a little bit different than the National Weather Service degree day calculator. So this one's just a little bit different, but essentially it runs with the corn crop. And when you set that date, that begins the cumulative degree day counter. And as you go through different milestones here, and the number of different degree days get accumulated, we have the different dates at which we expect that to happen with the forecast. It's also going to give you the milestones, when the silking date is, tassel, pollen, and so forth, the date that it happens, and your overall cumulative rainfall for the growing season. That's very important, obviously, to know how much rain you've had. And of course, you can always go down through all the forecasts, all the months of the season, see how we're overall trending, what month's going to be better, colder, warmer, and so forth for the rest of the information.
And now let's tie in with Bill Ford of Mountain, Illinois. Give us a little indication on what he sees on pricing.
The current rally in corn and soybeans is probably the spring high rally. The money managers and large speculators went into the recent inclement weather situation that hit the Midwest with major levels of net short positions in the grains. Therefore, most of the initial buying this week will probably be short covering. If the chart price gaps that were created Sunday night can remain open throughout this week, it should lend support for a rally that will last for more than a few days with new money flow and not just buying from short covering taking place. The July corn gap is between 369 and 369.5. The December corn gap is between 387 and 387.5. July corn will have strong resistance between $3.80 and $4, and December corn will have strong resistance between $3.95 and $4.15. The May WASDE report on Monday, May 10th will provide the first look at the 2017-2018 marketing year production and use projections. Depending upon the numbers issued by the USDA versus the traders' expectations, this report will likely have some lasting impact. Solar magnetic proton events in the months ahead will likely increase as solar cycle 24 moves towards its minimum, which will impact both the weather and the grain markets with increased volatility. I have several technical indicators and tools that are all designed to identify selling opportunities as we move forward in time. They are all designed to help my clients. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll talk to you next month.
Thanks for watching this Ag Update. Please contact Rich, Pam, or Bill with any questions at the email addresses above. They'll be happy to help.